There is a kind of power that does not announce itself. It does not demand attention, chase recognition, or wait for the world's approval. It exists quietly, like still water, deep and steady, unmoved by surface noise. The Stoics knew this strength well. They drew from it, lived by it, and carried it into their words and actions. It is the power of being rooted, of knowing who you are, what you stand for, and why you live as you do. This clarity does not come from noise, but from silence. It is not given quickly, but uncovered slowly, through discipline, reflection, and the steady refinement of values. In the story of Exodus, when Moses asked for God's name, the answer was simple. I am that I am. Not a role, not a title, just being, not avoidance, but the highest form of truth. The Stoic, too, is called to understand this simplicity, to rest in essence rather than decoration. You do not need borrowed importance. You do not need to remake yourself into something else. You need only to live as you truly are, moment by moment, in practice, not in theory. This is not a call to become. It is a call to return to the self beneath fear, beneath reputation, beneath the weight of public opinion. The self that simply is. When the masks fall away, when the performances fade, what remains is essence. And Stoicism teaches us to live from that essence. Not by adding more, but by subtracting what does not belong, by choosing silence over noise, observation over reaction, substance over image. The world will tempt you to trade essence for appearance. But the Stoic path is different. It is to stand clear while the world blurs. To live in such alignment that you do not need to declare who you are. Your life itself will speak it. Your walk will carry the truth of you. Chapter 1. Knowing without needing. The Stoics taught that wisdom begins by knowing what is within your control and what is not. Yet beneath this teaching lies something deeper, the foundation of selfhood. If you do not know yourself, you will keep chasing what you are not. You will look to approval to feel worthy, to success to feel valuable, to noise to quiet your inner unrest. But when you know yourself, you no longer bargain with your values. You no longer measure your worth against shifting opinions. You move with the quiet steadiness of someone who cannot be bought, because their identity is already whole. This is not bravado. It is a quiet confidence, shaped by reflection and strengthened in solitude. You begin to see that validation is a trap, and that real confidence does not come from others. It rises from within. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be like the cliff against which the waves continually break, yet it stands firm and tames the fury of the water around it." That firmness is not arrogance. It is alignment. It comes from living in harmony with your nature, with nothing to exaggerate and nothing to hide. From this place you no longer over-explain. You no longer prove. You simply embody. The inner compass grows steady so that no external storm can throw you off course. Every situation becomes a chance to remain true. Praise does not inflate you, and criticism does not diminish you. Recognition or neglect, you stand the same. You begin to see that worth is not something to earn. It is something to protect, and in protecting it, you preserve your peace. This is quiet strength. It does not bend beneath pressure, nor collapse beneath opinion. It does not reach outward. It stands inward. You begin making choices that do not depend on approval. You speak less because your actions carry the weight. You say no with ease because your soul has already said yes to something higher. You stop chasing. You start aligning. You no longer perform identity. You live it. Each moment becomes an invitation to stay rooted, not to impress. Clarity becomes more precious than applause. You begin to feel at home in yourself, not because you are flawless, but because you are real. To know without needing is to strip away the excess, to unlearn comparison, to let go of the endless pursuit of status, and to rest in the peace of simply being. The Stoics practiced this discipline. They reduced life to what matters most: virtue, reason, purpose. They saw that distraction is the enemy of essence. The clearer the mind, the truer the self appears. Epictetus said, "It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." The same is true of identity. It is not circumstance that defines you, but your view of yourself within it. You may lose a title, but not your virtue. You may lose a role, but not your character. The world can take much from you, but it cannot touch the core of who you are. That core is your compass. It will not deceive you. It is where your life truly resides, where courage gathers, where you return after every storm. Protect it. Return to it daily. For in that inner sanctuary, noise cannot enter, masks cannot endure, and lies cannot survive. Only truth remains. Practice stillness. Ask yourself often, who am I when nothing is required of me? What remains when there is no stage, no audience, no applause? Write it down, and let that answer guide you home. Return to it. Root yourself in it. Let the world shift as it will, but remain steady in your truth. Chapter 2. Detachment is not indifference. To live as yourself is to release the weight of other people's expectations. This detachment is not cold, not careless. It is clarity, the quiet assurance that you do not need to bend into shapes that were never yours. You are not clay in the hands of opinion. You are already formed, shaped by reason, guided by virtue. The Stoics did not retreat from the world to preserve this truth. They engaged with it fully, but without losing themselves in it. Seneca lived in the turbulence of Roman politics, yet he wrote about peace. He saw chaos, but returned to philosophy for stillness. Epictetus endured slavery, yet spoke of freedom, not the kind granted by men, but the kind rooted in the soul. Marcus Aurelius carried the weight of empire, yet reflected on humility and discipline. Their roles could not define them. Their essence remained untouched. For titles come and go, but the soul endures. They wore their duties lightly, as garments to be removed at day's end. Assignments, not identities. They lived in the world, yet belonged to reason. The power to live as I am that I am is the power to remain yourself. Even when costumes change, when names shift, when fortunes rise or fall, the essence must remain constant. This is not stubbornness, it is clarity. It is the root that holds while the winds howl, not pride but steadiness. The kind that carries you through fire without burning away what matters most. We often mistake detachment for distance. But Stoic detachment is not withdrawal. It is presence without entanglement. It is the strength to love without control, to care without collapse, to grieve without despair. It is to welcome both joy and sorrow with balance, to meet success without arrogance and failure without bitterness. You do not need to be cold to be calm. You do not need to vanish to be free. Detachment means your peace is no longer hostage to things beyond your soul. It is to walk through the world without letting the world take root within you. To remain free amid the noise. To remain grounded even when pulled in every direction. Detachment is not withdrawal. It is the ability to give your presence without losing your center. To engage fully, yet remain whole. True detachment is balance, offering attention without surrendering awareness, loving deeply without dissolving into need. From this place, life becomes clearer. You can admire beauty without needing to possess it. You can love others without expecting them to complete you. You begin to understand that everything is borrowed. Moments, possessions, even relationships. And because nothing is guaranteed to remain, Your peace is no longer tied to permanence. This does not strip life of its color. It deepens it. You see more vividly when you no longer clutch. You are free to experience, not just to keep. Detachment teaches you to hold life lightly, yet wholeheartedly. To show up with an open heart without chaining joy to outcomes. To let each moment pass through your hands like water, touched, cherished, but never trapped. It gives you the strength to say goodbye without resentment, to lose without bitterness, to love without fear of loss. This freedom is not indifference. It is devotion to truth over illusion. It is the strength to let what is real grow and to let what is false fade. In this freedom, fear loses its hold. You are no longer building your peace on shifting sand. You choose what aligns with your values, not what flatters your ego. The fog lifts and the path becomes clearer. Detachment is not the absence of feeling. It is the mastery of it. It is emotional discipline, not avoidance. It is the choice to let emotions pass without giving them control over permanent actions. It does not reject the world. It sees through it. It recognizes that every joy carries the seed of sorrow and that even loss can reveal something sacred. It does not deny attachment. It transforms it into awareness. You learn to hold everything with open hands, knowing all things pass, yet their beauty remains. You honor connection without control. You respect others without losing yourself. You can give your heart and still remain anchored. From this clarity, presence deepens. You are no longer driven by the need to impress or the fear of rejection. You meet others as a whole person, not a half-seeking completion. You listen without defense, give without keeping score, and walk away without losing your identity. This is what it means to stand steady. To live from a place so rooted that the surface waves of life no longer disturb your stillness. That is freedom. That is detachment. That is power. Each time you feel pulled by the expectations of others, pause. Ask yourself, am I acting from truth or from pressure? Choose the path of alignment, not of fear. Detachment does not separate you from people. It separates you from the need to please them. Chapter 3. The simplicity of strength. Complexity is often a disguise. We layer our image, hoping to hide what is hollow. We surround ourselves with noise to avoid the silence we fear. We build identities out of status, achievements, and appearances, forgetting that none of these can replace essence. The Stoic way is simple, not because it is easy, but because it is honest. Simplicity removes what is unnecessary. And honesty itself is strength. When the decoration falls away, what remains is the truth. And the clearer we see what matters, the braver we must be to live it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." This is the heart of simplicity, a return to sufficiency. You stop chasing. You stop proving. You stop performing for the world. You begin to live with enough. And you realize much of what you pursued was never essential. Your ambitions shift from desire to necessity. You see that less is not emptiness. Less is clarity. You stop living to impress and begin to live to express truth, virtue, and reason. Your words soften. Your actions steady. You move in tune with what is lasting, not what is fleeting. That alignment is strength. Not the strength that intimidates, but the strength that steadies. not the kind that demands, but the kind that inspires. It is the strength that builds trust, anchors communities, and shapes lives quietly by example. When you live this way, your life itself becomes a signal, not noise. A lighthouse, not a billboard. You no longer exaggerate victories or decorate speech. You rest in being enough. True power is simple. It does not shout because it does not fear silence. It does not grasp for attention because it is already whole. It is calm because it knows its depth. Complete because it does not need adornment. It moves with grounded grace into rooms, into challenges, into storms, always steady. This stillness is not passivity. It is presence, focused, clear, unmoved by distraction. Simplicity becomes resilience, a shield against noise, a compass when the world spins, a torch that keeps integrity visible, even in the dark. True power does not compete. It creates space. It does not manipulate. It inspires. It does not clamor for recognition. It stands whole, and by its stillness, it leads. You begin to see how little you truly need when your foundation is steady. The weight of the unnecessary falls from your shoulders. You no longer cling to external validation or measure yourself by passing applause. Praise and blame become echoes, sounds you hear but no longer obey. You stand not because you are rigid, but because you are rooted, anchored in principles that do not shift with trends or moods. This strength is not loud. It radiates quietly, through consistency, through presence, through endurance. It is not performed for the crowd. It is cultivated for the soul. The Stoics taught that a well-ordered mind is its own fortress, not a prison, but a sanctuary, a place where clarity is preserved and chaos loses its grip. In such a place, you are not free from pain, but you are free from confusion about who you are. Hardship does not leave you untouched, but it does not corrupt you. The waves strike, but they do not overturn. The fire burns, but it cannot consume what was forged beforehand. You do not search for strength in the storm, you carry it with you. Pain may arrive, but it cannot redefine you. Misfortune may visit, but it cannot move your foundation. You have trained your soul to know what matters and to let the rest fall away. You live by principle, not popularity, by reason, not reaction. When others panic, you pause. When others shout, you listen. When others rush, you remain deliberate or uneasy. This is not escape from the world. It is mastery within it. Simplicity sharpens vision. The more you strip away, the more clearly you see. And in that clarity, you discover a peace that does not rise and fall with circumstance. A peace that steadies your breath when others hold theirs in fear. A peace that anchors you when the world shakes. A peace not born of perfect conditions, but of perfected perspective. You are content, not because life has given you everything, but because you no longer require everything to be content. You have replaced expectation with acceptance. You have traded urgency for purpose. You have chosen peace as posture, not pursuit. This is what the Stoics sought, not comfort, not complexity, but truth. A life reduced to the essential, and in that reduction, elevated to the profound. A life that whispers with quiet strength, "This is enough." And from that whisper rises a power louder than the world's noise. Simplify your routines. Simplify your choices. Simplify your words. And ask yourself, what do I do to appear strong? What do I do that truly strengthens me? Then remove what is decoration, and keep only what is real. Chapter 4. Identity through action. Let truth be enough. Who you are is not what you declare in words or imagine in thought. It is what you do again and again. It is the pattern of choices made in silence, the shape of character revealed through habit. The Stoics did not stop at defining virtue, they lived it. Their philosophy was not decoration, but practice. They carried it into conversation, into hardship, into stillness. Philosophy was not something to be recited, it was something to be breathed. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." This is the essence of I am that I am, presence without pretense. It is the quiet strength of one who decides in private to live with integrity, without needing applause. You do not need to claim identity when you are living it. You do not need to defend your values when your actions reveal them. The world sees your essence in the pattern of your behavior, in your patience under pressure, your honesty in discomfort, your calm in disorder. Discipline is not proven in promises made when inspired. It is proven in routines kept when weary, in sacrifices made when unnoticed, in steadiness held when motivation fades. Kindness is not measured in words, but in gestures without gain. How you treat others when there is nothing to receive. How you respond when stressed. How you show up when patience costs you something. Courage is not the roar of a single moment. It is the quiet persistence of acting rightly, even when no reward is promised. It lives in boundaries held, in truths spoken at personal cost, in unseen battles fought within. The Stoic path is not perfection, it is consistency. Integrity is not the absence of failure. It is the refusal to pretend. Virtue is not staged, it is forged. To live from essence is to bring your outer life into alignment with your inner truth. To let your walk match your words, your habits reflect your heart, your conduct carry your convictions. To ensure that who you are in private is not at odds with who you present in public. This is not only integrity, it is identity. It is to live indivisible, not divided into compartments. When belief and behavior draw together, when principle becomes practice, you find freedom. Freedom from pretending. Freedom from the exhausting performance of virtue. A return to the simple reality of living it. When the inner and outer move in harmony, a calm strength emerges. It does not clamor to be seen. It does not need to be explained. It affirms itself in silence. This is the power of congruence, the power of being whole. Chapter 5. Endurance is identity. The way you listen, the way you respond, the way you pause, the way you lead, all of it flows from a centered soul. That alignment is peace, not a fragile calm that depends on others behaving as you wish, not the silence that waits for life to become convenient, but a peace that endures through noise, through tension, through heartbreak. It is a peace not borrowed from ease or approval. It is rooted in identity, an assurance that you are not scattered, not searching for pieces of yourself, and that identity is not granted from outside. It is formed quietly, day by day, in unseen moments, in ordinary choices that shape the soul, though no one claps for them. Greatness is not in display, but in repetition. In returning to your principles in private. In choosing again and again to act in alignment when no one notices. This is the ground of Stoicism, the foundation of enduring strength. Audit your days. not to condemn yourself, but to correct yourself. Where you fall short, return. Where you drift, realign. Identity is built through practice, not declaration. Let your life, not your words, speak for you. Your trials are not interruptions. They are confirmations. They arrive not to destroy, but to reveal. Hardship is the fire that tempers the soul. It is the mirror that clears away illusion and leaves only what is real. When life unravels, what remains is essence. Strength does not come from avoiding pain. It comes from standing inside it, breathing through it, and remembering who you are when everything else forgets. Marcus Aurelius knew this truth. He endured betrayal, sickness, war, and loss. He led through plague and rebellion. Yet his reflections were not of despair, but of duty, perspective, and love. He wrote not for applause, but for clarity, to remind himself that his soul belonged not to fortune, but to reason. His trials did not define him. They revealed what he had already built in silence. They revealed the depth of a man who had prepared his mind like a fortress, who had trained his heart not to react in haste, but to respond with virtue. To live with that kind of strength is to endure without losing yourself, to bend under life's weight, but not to break. Pain becomes the test of identity. It strips away the surface and shows what you have built upon. It asks whether your strength is decoration or foundation, whether it rests on applause, comfort, and convenience, or whether it is anchored in virtue. Many fall not because pain is too great, but because they had no rooted self to stand on. Ease had become their ground, and when ease vanished, so did their sense of who they were. Pain, then, was not only discomfort, it was disorientation. The Stoic does not fear this exposure. They see adversity not as an enemy to be avoided, but as part of the refining process. The goal is not to remain untouched by hardship, but to remain unmistakably yourself within it. They do not meet suffering with panic, but with preparation. They do not cling to survival alone. They search for truth within the trial. Hardship deepens them, steadies them, makes them quieter and more grounded. For the Stoic, peace is not the absence of pain, but the presence of resolve. And that resolve is not improvised in the storm. It is cultivated long before. Like a seed maturing into a tree, it grows slowly, steadily, in silence. The Stoic sharpens their principles in calm, so that when hardship arrives, they are not left scrambling for clarity. Each day becomes a practice ground. They prepare not out of fear, but out of discipline. They build strength in ordinary habits that hold firm when inspiration fades. They root themselves not in passing moods, but in meaning. They rehearse truth in quiet times, so that when the winds rise, they do not need to shout. They simply stand. This is what makes them unbreakable, not because they are untouched, but because they do not forget who they are when life hurts. Pain does not erase their identity, it clarifies it. Where others seek only relief, the Stoic seeks revelation. What can this hardship teach me? What in me is being forged here? What virtue is being refined? Not because they are numb, but because they are nourished by something deeper than comfort. They are sustained by principle, guided by meaning, and steadied by purpose. Their resolve is not brittle resistance, it is a quiet clarity. They hold their suffering with dignity, and in that dignity, suffering loses much of its power. They know trials will come, but they also know that identity can remain even when ease is gone. Their strength is not built on smooth seas, but on the weathered planks of integrity. When comfort is stripped away, they remain clothed in character. When the applause fades, they stand affirmed by their own conscience. Their story is not written by their wounds, but by the way they carry them. They remind us that true strength is not forged in the spotlight, but in the shadows. It is shaped in solitude, refined in silence, and revealed not through proclamations, but through choices. Strength is not measured by how loudly you endure, but by how faithfully you remember yourself while enduring. It does not appear in times of ease, but in the way you carry yourself when life unravels, when plans dissolve, when expectations collapse, when foundations crack. What emerges then is your true nature. The way you stand, the words you choose, the decisions you make in those moments speak more truth about your soul than any public victory ever could. In that quiet refusal to collapse lies resilience, not a brittle defiance, but a steady strength that bends without breaking. In that steadiness lies sovereignty, the power to govern your own mind when the world feels ungovernable. In that stillness lies a force untouched by circumstance, drawn not from the world, but from within, from preparation, from practice, from principle. The Stoic does not claim perfection. They do not pretend to be beyond pain, but they refuse to let pain rule them. They are not detached from life, but anchored in perspective, not untouched by harm, but undefeated in spirit. They rehearse their values in times of calm so they can carry them into the storm. They build an inner foundation that holds firm when the outer world shakes. They do not ask for ease. They ask for strength to remain aligned in chaos, for courage to remain kind in the face of cruelty, for clarity to remain honest in the face of corruption, for focus to remain steady in the face of confusion. And so, they do not simply survive suffering. They are reshaped by it. They let hardship carve out space for wisdom. They let it soften what must bend and reinforce what must stand. They emerge not hardened, but refined, not bitter, but grounded, not broken, but rebuilt. This transformation is not sudden. It is steady, not loud, but lasting. It is the quiet reward of holding the line of character again and again. Even when every comfort and convenience is gone, endurance bears fruit. It is what transforms identity into legacy. When difficulty comes, do not ask, "Why me?" Ask instead, "Who will I be through this?" Anchor yourself in principle. Repeat to yourself, "This is not happening to me. It is happening for the unveiling of my strength." Let endurance affirm your essence. Chapter 6, Silence and Sovereignty. To be sovereign over yourself is to rule your inner world. That rule begins with silence, not passive quiet, but deliberate stillness. The Stoics valued silence not as emptiness, but as clarity. It is in silence that truth is heard. It is in silence that you meet yourself without distraction, without the noise of others. Silence allows the mind to breathe. It dissolves distraction and awakens intention. In a world that constantly demands you speak, react, and perform, silence becomes a rare and radical form of power. It is not escape from the world, but a return to the throne room of your own mind. The modern world is loud. It provokes immediate, impulsive, unfiltered response. The Stoic does not yield to the pull of urgency. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. And what is more outside our control than the noise and opinions of the world? Silence is not absence. It is presence, a sacred space where decisions are weighed, emotions observed, and the self restored. It is the reset button for the soul, the sanctuary of clarity. When you stop speaking merely to be seen, you start listening to your own convictions. When you break the habit of commentary, you begin to hear your conscience. You realize you do not need to narrate your life to give it meaning. You simply live, rooted, calm, aware. This is power. This is sovereignty. To rule your words is to master your thoughts. To master your thoughts is to master your life. Each moment of silence becomes a declaration. You are not compelled. You are guided by wisdom. Silence guards dignity. It allows you to speak only when words are necessary, only when they serve truth. It sharpens insight, tempers impulses, and settles emotion. What seemed urgent dissolves into irrelevance. Not every thought must be voiced. Not every provocation must be answered. In the space between stimulus and response, wisdom emerges. The Stoics used silence not as a refuge, but as a forge. They entered stillness to sharpen reason, to rehearse values, to prepare responses. Silence was where courage was shaped, pride tempered, and clarity cultivated. It was not withdrawal, it was preparation for life. It was in silence that they wrote, reflected, repented, and refined. It wasn't, but because it allowed them to see clearly. It purified intent, clarified priorities, and heightened awareness. To cultivate silence is not to escape the world. It is to strengthen your place in it. It is how you hold your ground, choose your words, and command your presence without speaking. It is how you listen, not only to others, but to the quiet guidance within, the whisper that leads you home to your true self. Practice daily silence, not merely the absence of noise, but the presence of reflection. Journal, walk, breathe. Let silence become your ally. Say less, mean more. Show your essence through restraint. Chapter 7. Integrity is not negotiable. To say I am that I am is to declare that who you are is not for sale. The Stoic does not bend for convenience or applause. Integrity is the backbone of identity. Without it, you are a puppet to praise, a prisoner to fear. With integrity, you are immovable. Epictetus said, "It is better to die of hunger, having lived without grief and fear, than to live in plenty with a troubled mind." Integrity is costly, but its reward is peace, a peace untouched by the verdicts of others and unaffected by fortune's fluctuations. When your actions align with your values, you no longer need to remember who you are pretending to be. You walk in truth, not in costume. You are not performing. You are living principle. That principle becomes the foundation beneath your feet. In a world that rewards the adaptable chameleon, the Stoic chooses the steady oak. The chameleon survives by shifting colors, but in doing so, it loses itself each time it changes. The Stoic endures by remaining rooted, not because it is easy, but because it is right. You do not need to betray your character to fit in. Fitting in is meaningless if you are unrecognizable to yourself. The cost of self-betrayal is far greater than the cost of being misunderstood. No gain is worth the erosion of your self-respect. Integrity anchors you when the winds of opinion shift. It gives you a voice that does not tremble before power, a spine that does not bend under pressure. It allows you to speak with clarity when others remain silent out of fear. It is not rigidity, it is reliability. It is not arrogance, it is alignment. It is the art of living consistently with your values while remaining compassionate in presence. The Stoic builds a life on that which cannot be bought, faked, or taken away. They invest in wealth that does not rust, a clear conscience, a steady hand, a soul that stands true even when the world shakes around it. Make a list of your non-negotiables. Principles you will not betray, no matter the cost. When you are tested, revisit this list, hold the line. Every time you choose integrity over comfort, you become more of who you truly are. Chapter 8. Ownership of the present moment. To declare I am that I am is to stake your claim on the now. The Stoics understood that the present moment is the only domain you truly own. The past is memory. The future is a guess. But this moment, this breath, this choice, this action is entirely yours. Marcus Aurelius said, "You must build up your life action by action and be content if each one achieves its goal as far as possible." To live fully is to take ownership of the present without excuse, complaint, or delay. When you act in alignment with now, you stop waiting for the right mood or perfect conditions. You move according to what is right, not what is convenient. You stop asking for signs and begin becoming the answer. You step forward with resolve, not because the path is clear, but because your values are. The Stoic does not outsource responsibility. They do not blame fate, chance, or others. They do not wait for circumstances to shift before acting. Each decision is sacred ground, the place where virtue lives or dies. Every choice becomes a reflection of who you are, a declaration of presence and power. You cannot live with strength if you avoid the present. You cannot know yourself if you never decide who you will be now. To live fully in this moment is to show up completely, heart, mind, and values aligned. It means doing what is needed without resentment. It means not just showing up, but staying awake. It is choosing engagement over distraction, service over self-pity, courage over hesitation. It is the discipline of presence, the refusal to surrender attention to anxiety, drift, or digital noise. It is stepping into what matters most with full awareness. Living in the present is an act of reverence for time, for truth, for the task at hand. It does not abandon reflection or foresight. It carries them wisely without being imprisoned by them. You release regret without discarding wisdom. You plan for the future without becoming addicted to control. The present is not passive. It is a battleground where clarity either reigns or chaos takes over. Every moment is an opportunity to reinforce character or let it erode. It is asking, what is mine to do? And doing it without fanfare, without validation, without escape, and without negotiating with fear. The Stoic does not rush through time. They respect it. They treat each moment as if it belongs to eternity, not because it lasts forever, but because what you do within it echoes in who you become. Time is not something to fill. It is something to honor. The Stoic does not postpone life for the illusion of perfect timing. They know clarity rarely arrives before movement. It is often found in the act itself. They begin not because the moment is ideal, but because they are aligned. Each hour becomes proof of who they are. Pause during your day and ask, am I here? Not lost in what comes next, not haunted by what has passed, but fully present, fully owning your moment. Choose your response. Make your time count. Chapter 9. The Discipline of Self-Containment. To live as I am that I am is to require less from the world and more from yourself. It is stepping back from the hunger for validation and stepping deeper into personal strength. The Stoics practiced the discipline of self-containment, not as isolation, but as self-sufficiency. They did not avoid others, but they refused to rely on others for their sense of worth. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look well into yourself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up, if you will always look. That strength does not depend on praise. It does not shrink in silence or waver in solitude. It lives inside those who have disciplined their minds to be enough even when the world goes quiet. Self-containment means you do not need others to act in a certain way for you to have peace. It is being rooted in your values, so your calm is not held hostage by circumstance. You do not hinge your identity on perception. Your mood is not at the mercy of approval. You do not need constant encouragement to do what is right. You move forward not because of applause, but because the path aligns with your principles. This is not pride, it is sovereignty. It is the recognition that what you control is enough. It is the strength to remain steady when the world rushes and the clarity to act when others hesitate. When your energy is no longer scattered outward seeking validation, it turns inward. You become whole. Joy emerges from discipline, not impulse. Discipline becomes a rhythm that grounds you, a structure that frees rather than confines. It is not rigidity, it is reverence, reverence for your potential, your energy, and your time. Meaning is found in the quiet pursuit of virtue, not in spectacle or applause. You no longer perform morality for recognition. You live it daily, even in obscurity, knowing that real transformation grows in silence, not in display. You find freedom in restraint, not indulgence. You discover that saying no to what is easy often opens the doorway to what is essential. Comfort is no longer confused with strength. You begin to see that ease can be an obstacle, indulgence can dilute resolve, and growth is often found on the edge of discomfort. You carry your calm into chaos. Not because the chaos has disappeared, but because you have become steady. You are the one others look to when the room panics, not because you seek to lead, but because you have already led yourself. Your stability no longer depends on externals. It flows from the structure of your soul. You move with conviction, guided by values rather than reactions. Your steps are measured by principle, not applause. You stop second-guessing the path when it is paved with integrity. Doubt dissolves when purpose becomes your compass. The Stoic remains anchored to their core, neither inflated by praise nor deflated by criticism. They do not build their identity on applause, nor abandon it in rejection. Virtue, clarity, and steadiness carry them through. The wind does not need to shift in their favor, for they have built a sail of character that adjusts with grace. That inner reservoir never runs dry for those who return to it daily, in silence, in solitude, in strength. It is their wellspring, their foundation, their daily renewal. Reduce dependency on outer circumstances. Sit alone without distraction. Practice doing something meaningful without seeking notice. Let your strength come from within. Chapter 10. I am that I am. This is the return to essence. All lessons, all discipline, all clarity lead to this moment. The understanding that you were never meant to become someone else. You are meant to be fully, simply, powerfully yourself, without excuse, without apology. Not to fabricate a better version, but to remove all that is false until only truth remains. To stop seeking identity outside and begin living from the one already present within. This is the full circle of the Stoic path, not accumulation but return. I am that I am is not arrogance. It is authenticity. It is not a boast, but grounding, a commitment to truth, virtue, and presence, choosing essence over image, character over charm, silence over spectacle. The Stoic does not aspire to be more than they are. They aspire to be only what they are, with excellence. They drop masks. They release posturing. They walk in quiet power, because there is nothing to prove. Self-worth is measured not by comparison, but by congruence, the alignment of inner life and outward act. This is not stagnation. It is mastery. It is the strength of a life lived fully, simply, and true. It is mastery. You do not need to announce your worth. You do not need to win every battle. You need only to live in alignment with your deepest convictions, to rise each day with clarity, to act with dignity, to speak with intention, to love without condition. You do not need a title to stand tall, nor applause to feel enough. You need only to remember that a life of virtue is the crown worth wearing. That is enough. That is strength. That is Stoicism. It is not reactive. It is deliberate. It is not desperate for recognition. It is rooted in substance. It asks not, how am I perceived? But am I living truthfully? When the noise of the world surrounds you, when doubt creeps in, when fear tightens its grip, return to this phrase as a quiet anchor. I am that I am. Not someday, not when everything is perfect. Now, in this breath, in this body, in this life. Let it be enough. Let it steady you when you are shaken. Let it humble you when you are praised. Let it remind you that nothing more is needed when your life is lived in harmony with your values. This is your anchor. This is your return. This is your power. Write the phrase, I am that I am, where you can see it every day. Speak it aloud in the quiet morning. Let it shape how you stand, how you act, how you lead. Let it remind you, you are not becoming. You are already whole.